You're listening to The Observing Eye. Pirate Radio for the mind. Coming at you fresh from the computer hell cabin.
Hello, you beautiful lot. It's Friday, the 17th of November, 2023, and this is episode 39 of The Observing Eye, coming at you live from the computer hell cabin. As always, I like to begin these episodes with a brief moment of reflection. So, let's take a moment to remember, or to think about, the good things that have happened this week. And now a moment for the not so good. We're going to be going back to basics on this episode, but before I begin, I just want to say a very warm welcome and a big hello to our YouTube followers. So we got ourselves onto YouTube this week, and you'll be able to find all of the episodes of the podcast straight out on YouTube at exactly the same time as Spotify, Substack, and all our other platforms. So YouTube, hello, and welcome aboard. Hope you enjoy the ride. So this week, I'm going to be talking about prioritizing our own well-being. I think there's a few facets to this and a few parts I'm going to work through, but hopefully it'll put you in good stead to start looking after yourself, because I think it's something that many of us don't do enough of. It's something I notice a lot where I've had therapy clients in the past. It feels like a recurring theme. And speaking of recurring themes, there's going to be some stuff that I've probably mentioned in previous episodes here, but let's consolidate it together so you've got a frame of reference for this. So the recurring theme that I see in a lot of clients that I've worked with is this idea that putting our own well-being first is an act of selfishness. And that is something that I cannot disagree with more. I think it's one of the biggest myths that we tell ourselves. If anything, I like to look at prioritizing our well-being, our needs in that sense, as very, very similar to when we go on a flight and the attendants explain that we should be putting the oxygen mask on ourselves before the person next to us, and then just, praying that we survive when the plane crashes. Obviously, like sans the plane crash, the idea behind this is that if we have oxygen, if we can breathe and our needs for survival are met, then we are in a better position to be able to help the people around us. So when it comes to our own well-being, put your own oxygen mask on first. It's not selfish. You're not putting the needs of others to one side. If anything, you're enabling yourself to be able to support them better. You're enabling yourself to be there to support their needs. If we constantly give and we don't spend time recharging our batteries and looking after ourselves, then eventually we're going to run out of stuff to give. We're going to get so fatigued by supporting others that there is nothing left in us. We become this like withered husk. I kind of imagine it as, like those old wasps' nests that you find in the loft or underneath the drain, the guttering. That's what we become like, just this hollow, dusty husk. And in that space, we are absolutely no good to anybody. Now, as with all of these things, this is not an instant fix. If you're in a mindset where you personally feel that it's selfish to do that, to put your needs first, that's going to take some unraveling. So it's something you're going to need to spend a bit of time thinking about, a bit of time reflecting on, and working on this to kind of turn it into something positive so that you can change your mindset. Like, none of this stuff is easy, and all of it takes effort. All I would say is try and remember that when you're going through these sorts of, self-awareness, self-improvement processes. Nothing is a quick fix. Everything takes time. And just have a bit of patience and a little bit of self-compassion. Don't be unkind to yourself. Which moves me nicely on to the next thing that I want to talk about, which is exercising self-compassion. Now, those of you that have been with me for a while will be like, oh my God, it's the self-compassion thing again. but you know I'm right. You know I'm right. You see, another thing that I've noticed as a recurring theme in when I've had therapy clients, and also just amongst friends and family, is the way that people talk to themselves. That interior narrative, that monologue that we've got going on, the way that some people communicate with themselves is horrendous. You wouldn't speak to anybody like this, but we seem to think it's okay to speak to ourselves so badly, so in such a derogatory way. So if you ever find yourself just that interior monologue going on, take a moment to just listen to it. Just pause and reflect on what it is that you're saying to yourself. And if it's consistently things like, you're not good enough, why bother, you're shit anyway, like what's the point in all of this, like you're a terrible person, you're not good enough, all of this, all of the usual, the usual things, the usual horrendous words that we would use. Just take a moment to be aware and observe what it is that you're saying to yourself. And then just take a moment to reflect on it and think, wow, okay, so why am I talking to myself like this? Like, because all you're doing is you're reinforcing this shit mindset where you're treating yourself in an appalling manner. Part of looking after our well-being is treating ourselves with some compassion and some kindness and forgiving ourselves for making mistakes, not holding on to things and allowing them to become like the focal point of our attention. There's this saying, and I can't remember where it comes from. I think it's a Buddhist saying, but I could well be wrong. Correct me in the comments. That says, where our attention goes, our energy flows, right? So if our attention is focused on this really unpleasant self-talk, then that's where our energy is going to go. And we're going to start to believe the self-talk, even though it's generally complete nonsense. So that's a little challenge for you. If you're finding yourself in that space, take a minute to pause, reflect, and question. That will be if there's one thing I can give you in all of the podcasts that I've done and will do and all the writing and everything, it is to pause, reflect, and question. That single tool, if you apply that to your thoughts and your emotions, then that will stand you in very good stead to improve your self-awareness and start to understand why you're behaving in a certain way, why you're reacting to things in a certain way, and why you're treating yourself in a certain way. Pause, reflect, and question. So the next thing I want to talk about is setting boundaries, because boundaries are massively important when it comes to looking after our well-being. Now, I used to be the sort of person that would say yes to everybody. Yes, someone needs help with this, someone needs some support with that. I'd be like, yep, sure, I'm on it, that's good. And it invariably turned me into one of those little withered, dusty husks that I talked about earlier, just like a human wasp's nest, because I was expending so much energy and not spending any time looking after myself. And when we think about boundaries aren't about putting up a wall to keep people out. This isn't Trump's great big wall of well-being. Boundaries are about keeping our energy in. And it's also about recognizing that we are not a villain if we say no to something. If our friends are inviting us out on a Friday evening and we really don't feel like it because we're tired, we've had a really mad week, our brain's a bit frazzled, and we just want a bit of our own space, saying no doesn't make us a bad person. If the other people have the expectation that we need to go out, and if us saying no offends them, that's their fucking problem, not ours. Our priority is looking after our well-being. Because what will happen in this scenario, for example, is we're feeling tired and exhausted on a Friday night. We push ourselves to go out. We have a bit of a fun time. We have a few drinks and we enjoy it. It's all good. But then our Saturdays are right off. And then we're still tired on Sunday. And then we're back to work on Monday, not really feeling ourselves because we've used up too much energy when there was barely anything left in the tank anyway. We are never going to please everybody. So don't even bother trying. It's a waste of energy. When it comes to boundaries, we need to consider it as like we've got a VIP list for our time and our energy, and only the essentials get the backstage passes. Where are we then? What have we covered so far? we've got prioritizing our own well-being. Put your oxygen mask on first, people. We've got self-compassion, and we've got setting boundaries. Now, I'm just going to talk briefly about some of the physical sides of well-being and what we can do to look after the body. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not a doctor or medical expert in this sense. I've studied psychotherapy, so I can only really come at this from any sort of expertise from the mind. But I'm just going to say these things so they are in your awareness. And that's to consider what you're eating, looking after your body, and getting enough sleep. So when I was studying Buddhism, and bear with me, this feels like a tangent, but it's not. There's a point to this. I came across this idea of the body-mind. So rather than considering the mind and the body as being two separate, discretely distinct things, Buddhism looked at the body and the mind as being part of the same thing, as a collective whole. We obviously can't have the body without the mind, and the mind wouldn't exist without the body. And in that way, we can recognize that the two are intrinsically interlinked. So if the body is in a bad state, then it makes it more difficult for the mind to be in a good state. The mind will follow where the body is, and in a way, potentially vice versa. So in that sense, things like the food we eat, the exercise and the activity that we have looking after the body, and the sleep that we get all play an intrinsic role in our well-being. Now, there's an American stand-up comedian called George Carlin, who there's something he said that really sticks with me after seeing it, and I think is really applicable to well-being, and that's garbage in, garbage out. So if we are not looking after the body at all, if we aren't sleeping enough, if we are just putting shit into our mouths, then it's no surprise that what comes out is garbage in terms of our well-being. So there's something to consider there around activity, around food, and around sleep. I'm not going to dive into those. As I said, I'm not an expert on that stuff, but I just want to talk about it. I want to mention it so it's in your awareness, and it's something that you're then able to go and investigate and consider and look into in more depth. I'll go back to that little phrase I said earlier, pause, reflect, and question. Just reflect on, what is it that you're doing? Are you just taking little moments to try and improve some of that aspect of, even just going out for a walk or something in the sunshine? I know it sounds ridiculous, and I know it sounds glib, but it does make a difference. And when it comes to our well-being, there is no one solution for everybody. It's a multifaceted thing, and it's composed of lots and lots of small components that come together to make the whole. So when we're working our well-being, we need to think about all of those different facets, and we need to be expending energy on working on each of them. And when we think about well-being, it shouldn't be about surviving. It should be about thriving. We have to be thinking of the little things that we can do to improve our state of mind and improve our experience. Fundamentally, we're all here having this human experience, and we want to try and make that the best that we can, not only for ourselves, but for those around us. Because if we're having a good human experience, then it enables us to facilitate and help others to have good experiences. And it propagates outwards. It becomes this collective thing. And that's where we can go back to saying, looking after our well-being isn't a selfish act, because it enables us to contribute as part of a greater whole. We have to remember that we are not creatures existing in isolation. We are communal animals, and we exist in a bigger construct than us. And it's important to be aware of that. It's important to be aware of the context in which we're having this experience. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is all I have to say for the moment on the beautiful mess that is our well-being. As always, I want to thank you all for taking some time to listen to this today. Your attention and your awareness is greatly appreciated. To our new subscribers, thank you so much for following. It genuinely brightens my day to see that people are finding this useful and coming back and listening to new stuff. So thank you. Absolutely awesome that you're here. If you've been here before, you'll also be aware that I really love to hear some feedback and to hear your thoughts on what I'm talking about each week. So whatever platform you're on, be that on the YouTube or the Substack or you can't leave comments on Spotify, can you? But the YouTube and the Substack, if you've got thoughts and ideas, please put a comment down and get a discussion going. I'd really love to hear what you've got to say on that. If you like some of this stuff, if you're interested in what we're talking about today, you can subscribe to the Substack, which can be found at the Observing I, that's the letter I, .substack.com. And you'll find both the podcast and some written stuff on there as well. So I try and put out some content to support what we're talking about. But I've been a little lax on the writing lately, so it's something I like to get back into properly in the new year. So you can subscribe to that and you'll get the emails and the updates as soon as they come out. As it's Friday, I'd like to wish you all a fantastic weekend. I hope that you spend some time prioritizing your well-being, do some stuff for you, take some time out, have a good experience. You know, do something crazy. Eat a cheese board, have a glass of port. I don't know, go for a walk in the woods. Something that's going to energize and invigorate you. You know, go and stare at the sea for an hour. I don't know, whatever works for you, whatever is your well-being. Well-being is a unique buffet, and it's unique to each one of us. So go and do that this weekend. That's your homework. I'm not marking it, obviously. You do what you like. You're not going to get a detention or anything, just trying to make you feel better. Have a wonderful one, everybody. Much love, and I'll catch you soon.
You've been listening to The Observing I. Thanks for spending some time with me today. I hope that you found it useful. And if you're interested in any more of my writings or work around psychology and philosophy and general day-to-day living, please go and take a look at my Substack, which is theobservingi.substack.com. And that's I as in the letter, not I as in the gelatinous organ through which you see. Take care, everybody. Much love, and I'll see you soon.